The billionaire's face drains of color as his blind son stands between him and the woman he banished 8 years ago. She didn't abandon me, Dad. You took her from me. The secret room in the attic has revealed everything. The accident, the cover-up, the lies that destroyed them all. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from and don't forget to click subscribe. The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor 3 feet from where Maya stood, and she didn't even flinch anymore. 6 months of working in the Ashford mansion had taught her that young Marcus Ashford threw things when he was frustrated, which was essentially every waking moment of his life. What struck her as different this time was the silence that followed. No cursing, no demands that she clean it up immediately, just the quiet sound of his breathing in the darkness he'd known for 8 years. She watched him from the doorway of his bedroom, this 26-year-old man who possessed everything except the one thing he wanted most. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed, his sandy blonde hair falling across his forehead, expensive clothes hanging off a frame that had grown too thin from refusing to eat meals he couldn't see. His hands were clenched in his lap, and even from across the room Maya could see they were trembling. "I can hear you breathing," he said, his voice rough. "Are you going to lecture me about throwing priceless antiques? Or can we skip that part today?" Maya stepped carefully over the scattered glass, her worn sneakers crunching softly. "Actually, I was wondering if you'd like some coffee. The real kind, not the decaf your father makes me serve you." His head turned toward her voice, and for a moment, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. In 6 months, she'd learned that everyone in Marcus's life treated him like a fragile, dangerous thing. His father, billionaire tech mogul Richard Ashford, spoke to him in that careful tone reserved for the terminally ill. The rotating staff of nurses and specialists approached him like he might detonate. Even his mother, before the divorce 3 years ago, had wrapped her fear in suffocating sweetness. Maya had decided on her first day that she wouldn't do that. She had a 9-year-old daughter to support and needed this job desperately, but she'd grown up with a blind grandmother who taught her that disabled didn't mean incapable, and pity was more crippling than any darkness. "My father," Marcus said slowly, "pays you to clean, not to smuggle contraband caffeine. Your father pays me barely enough to cover my daughter's asthma medication, so I figure I can make my own decisions about coffee." She moved toward his sitting area, navigating around furniture she'd memorized. "Besides, you're an adult. Pretty sure you can decide what goes in your own body." She heard him stand, his bare feet padding across the floor with the careful precision of someone who'd mapped every inch of his prison. "Your daughter has asthma. Severe, but she's tough." Maya busied herself straightening the books on his shelf, volumes in Braille that he'd thrown across the room during yesterday's session with Dr. Pembroke, the latest in a long line of specialists who promised miracles and delivered nothing. "Tougher than me most days. I didn't know you had a kid." "You've never asked." She said it without accusation, just fact. "To be fair, you've never asked any of the staff anything personal. We're just the invisible people who clean up your messes and remind you to take pills you don't want." The silence stretched out, and Maya wondered if she'd finally pushed too far. She needed this job. The salary was triple what she'd made at the diner, even if it came with the occupational hazard of flying objects. But something about Marcus Ashford's carefully constructed walls made her want to kick them down. Maybe because she recognized them. She'd built her own after her ex-husband had left her with a sick toddler and a pile of medical debt. "Her name's Zoe," Maya continued, deciding that if she was going to get fired, she might as well go all in. "She's 9, obsessed with astronomy even though we live in an apartment where you can barely see 3 stars through the light pollution. Wants to be an astrophysicist, which is hilarious because I barely passed high school math." "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus's voice had lost its sharp edge, replaced by something that sounded almost like genuine curiosity. "Because I'm tired of tiptoeing around you like everyone else does. You're blind, not broken. And you're certainly not the only person in the world dealing with something hard." She heard his sharp intake of breath and braced herself for another thrown object. Instead, he laughed. It was short, bitter, but real. "Is that your version of a motivational speech?" "Because it needs work. I'm a maid, not a life coach." Maya moved toward the door. Coffee offer stands. I'm making a pot in the kitchen anyway. Maya. Her name stopped her. He'd never used it before, just called her the help, or didn't address her at all. My father will be back from Singapore tomorrow. He's bringing another specialist, some genius from Switzerland who's pioneered a new surgical technique. The resignation in his voice told her everything she needed to know. How many specialists had there been? She'd heard the staff gossip. Dozens. The best doctors from around the world, all offering hope that crumbled into disappointment. Marcus had been 18 when a car accident had stolen his sight, along with his girlfriend who'd been driving. The trauma to his optic nerves was supposedly irreversible, but Richard Ashford had unlimited money and refused to accept impossible. You don't think this one will work either, Maya said. I know it won't. Marcus moved to the window, pressing his palm against the glass like he could feel the view he couldn't see. The Ashford estate sprawled across 15 acres of Connecticut coastline, a monument to wealth that meant nothing to him. Do you know what's worse than being blind? Everyone constantly telling you that you won't be. 8 years of hope is more exhausting than just accepting reality. Maya understood that feeling too well. The years of specialists for Zoe, the alternative treatments they couldn't afford, the desperate prayers that maybe this would be the thing that cured her. Sometimes acceptance was easier than hope. I'll make that coffee, she said softly, and left him standing at his window. The Ashford kitchen was larger than Maya's entire apartment, all gleaming stainless steel and marble countertops that someone else cleaned. That someone else was usually her, but today was Marie's responsibility. Marie, the head housekeeper, had been with the Ashfords for 20 years and ran the staff with military precision. She looked up from chopping vegetables as Maya entered, her expression immediately suspicious. Marcus throw something again? Just a vase. Maya moved to the commercial-grade coffee maker. I'm making real coffee. Don't tell Richard. Marie's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. That boy's been drinking decaf for years because Richard read some article about caffeine and optic nerve damage, as if that matters now. She returned to her vegetables. You're different with him than the others were. The others? The maids before you. They lasted 2 weeks, maybe 3. Couldn't handle the moods, the throwing things, the way he'd go days without speaking. Marie's knife moved with practiced efficiency. You've been here 6 months. You talk back to him. Should I stop? God, no. Marie actually smiled now. That boy's been surrounded by yes people and quacks his whole life. His mother used to baby him until he couldn't stand it. His father throws money at the problem. Maybe what he needs is someone who treats him like a human being instead of a tragedy. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the kitchen with rich aroma. Maya pulled down 2 mugs, then hesitated. Do you think Richard's an asshole? Or does he actually care? Both. Marie's answer came without hesitation. Richard Ashford built a tech empire from nothing. Brilliant, ruthless, completely incapable of accepting failure. He loves his son desperately, but he can't understand that Marcus isn't a problem to be solved with enough money and determination. Maya poured the coffee, remembering the few times she'd seen Richard. Tall, silver-haired, always in expensive suits even at home. He'd looked at her exactly once, long enough to assess whether she was competent, then never again. She was furniture to men like him, useful but unremarkable. She carried 2 mugs back upstairs, navigating the wide hallways lined with abstract art, worth more than she'd earn in a lifetime. Marcus's door was open, and she found him at his desk, fingers moving over a braille book. She set his coffee down with a soft clink so he'd know its location. It's 2 inches from your right hand, she said. Fair warning, it's hot and strong. He reached for it carefully, brought it to his lips, and took a sip. His expression shifted, something easing in his shoulders. Christ, I forgot what real coffee tastes like. Maya sat in the armchair across from him, something she'd never dared do before. The casual intimacy of it felt strange, but Marcus didn't object. What are you reading? Paradise Lost. Milton wrote it after he went blind, did you know that? There's something darkly appropriate about reading his literal description of hell when you're living in your own version of it. That's remarkably dramatic even for you. I'm 26 years old, Maya. I should be out there living, working, making my own mark instead of riding on my father's success. Instead, I'm trapped in this house reading about fallen angels and waiting for another miracle that won't come. The rawness in his voice made Maya's chest tight. She thought about Zoe, about the nights her daughter couldn't breathe, and Maya felt helpless. You could leave, she said. Your father doesn't have you locked in here. Doesn't he? Marcus set down his coffee with more force than necessary. Every time I mention moving out, he lists all the reasons I can't manage alone. The world isn't set up for blind people. I'd be vulnerable. What if something happened? He's terrified I'll end up hurt or worse, so I stay in my gilded cage and pretend I'm not suffocating. Maya understood that particular flavor of love that trapped more than it freed. Her own mother had been that way, certain Maya would fail at everything, that the world was too dangerous, too hard. It had taken getting pregnant at 19 to finally break free, and even that had come with its own set of chains. Maybe the Swiss doctor will be different, she offered, though she didn't believe it. They're never different. Marcus turned his face toward her even though he couldn't see her, and Maya wondered what he imagined when he heard her voice. They look at my scans. They poke and prod. They use words like unprecedented and revolutionary, and then they quietly tell my father it's hopeless. I've stopped attending the consultations. Let him chase his dreams without me. The defeat in his words sparked something angry in Maya's chest. She'd spent years fighting for Zoe, watching her daughter struggle for every breath, and she'd never once considered giving up. But she also knew that sometimes the fighting got so exhausting that surrender looked like peace. I should get back to work, she said, standing. Your father will lose his mind if the third floor isn't spotless before he returns. Maya. Again, her name in his voice felt intimate, important. Thank you. For the coffee. For talking to me like I'm not made of glass. You're not made of glass, she said. You're made of stubborn male pride and self-pity, which is much less fragile. She left before he could respond, but she heard his laugh follow her down the hall, and it felt like a small victory. The next morning, Richard Ashford returned with his Swiss specialist in tow. Dr. Henrik Volker was exactly what Maya expected. Late 50s, impeccably groomed, with that particular arrogance that came from being world-renowned. She was dusting the second-floor landing when they passed, deep in conversation. The technique involves microsurgical reconstruction of the optic nerve pathways, Dr. Volker was saying in accented English. We've had remarkable success with similar trauma cases in Zurich. Of course, your son's case is complicated by the scarring and the time elapsed, but I believe there's genuine hope. Richard's face was animated in a way Maya had never seen. Whatever it costs, whatever resources you need, I want Marcus to see again. They disappeared into Richard's study, and Maya returned to her dusting, wondering how Marcus would react to this latest promise. She didn't have to wait long. An hour later, she heard Richard's voice booming from the study, angry and frustrated, followed by Marcus's quieter, but equally firm refusal. By lunchtime, the entire staff knew that Marcus had refused to even meet Dr. Volker. Richard had stormed out to his office in the city. The specialist had returned to his hotel, presumably to wait for the sun to become reasonable, and Marcus had locked himself in his room. Maya knocked softly. I have lunch. Marie made your favorite. The pasta thing with the cream sauce you pretend you don't like. Silence. I'm leaving it outside your door. It'll get cold, but that's your choice. Go away, Maya. Nope. Part of my job description is to be persistently annoying. She tried the door and found it unlocked. Marcus was back at his window, rigid with tension. Your father looked like he wanted to commit murder. My father can go to hell. Strong words for a man who pays for this very expensive roof over your head. Marcus whirled toward her. You don't understand. None of you understand. I'm done being his project, his problem to fix. I'm done with the hope and the disappointment and the looks of pity when another miracle cure fails. Maya set the lunch tray down. So you're just giving up? Going to spend the rest of your life in this room, throwing things and feeling sorry for yourself? Better than being paraded in front of another doctor who'll poke at me like I'm a lab rat. You know what Zoe said to me last week? Maya moved closer to him, close enough that he probably could hear her heartbeat. She said she was tired of being sick, tired of missing school for treatments, tired of being different. She asked me if she could just stop trying. Marcus's jaw clenched. What did you tell her? I told her no. I told her that giving up wasn't an option, that she was stronger than her disease, and that I would fight for her even when she was too tired to fight for herself. Maya's voice cracked. But you know what I didn't tell her? That sometimes I'm tired too. That sometimes I want to give up. That loving someone means watching them suffer and feeling helpless. The silence between them felt charged, electric. Marcus's hands opened and closed at his sides. I'm sorry, he said finally. About your daughter. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. We both know that. Maya turned to leave, then stopped. But you have a choice, Marcus. Your daughter's disease doesn't give her one. You can choose to keep trying or choose to give up, but don't pretend it's anything other than a choice. She left him there, and didn't look back. That evening, Maya was cleaning the third-floor bathroom when she heard the sound. It was faint, coming from above her, from the direction of the attic. The Ashford mansion had a massive attic space that she'd never been asked to clean. Marie said it was full of old furniture and boxes, nothing important, and Richard preferred it left alone. But the sound was persistent. A rhythmic tapping, like someone knocking. Maya knew she should ignore it. She had 2 more bathrooms to clean before she could go home to Zoe. But curiosity was a powerful thing, and the sound was oddly compelling. She found the attic access in the hallway ceiling, pulled down the folding stairs and climbed up, and the attic was dim, illuminated only by a single bulb and the fading evening light through small windows. It was exactly as Marie had described. Furniture covered in sheets, stacks of boxes, the accumulated detritus of wealth. The tapping sound had stopped. Maya was about to leave when she noticed something odd. In the far corner there was a door, not a closet door, but a proper door with a handle, set into what should have been the exterior wall. She'd seen the mansion from outside. There was nothing beyond that wall except the roofline. The door was locked, but the key was hanging on a nail beside it, almost like someone wanted it to be found. Maya's hand was on the key before she fully decided to use it. The lock clicked open easily, and the door swung inward to reveal a small room she hadn't known existed. It was barely 10 feet square, but it was clearly lived in. There was a single bed, neatly made, a desk with papers scattered across it, bookshelves lined with volumes, and on every available surface, photographs. Maya stepped inside, her heart pounding. The photos were all of the same woman. Beautiful, dark-skinned, with warm eyes and a radiant smile. She was everywhere, frozen in moments of joy. Laughing at the beach, reading a book in a garden, standing next to a younger, happier-looking Richard Ashford. But it was the painting on the wall that made Maya's breath catch. It was a portrait, clearly professional, of the woman from the photos. And sitting on her lap in the painting was a young boy, maybe 9 or 10 years old, with sandy blonde hair and bright green eyes that looked directly at the viewer, Marcus. Before the accident, when he could still see. Maya's mind raced. Who was this woman? Why was there a secret room dedicated to her? And why had no one mentioned her? She moved to the desk, scanning the papers. They were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Marcus but never sent. The handwriting was elegant, feminine. Maya picked up the top one, dated just 3 months ago. My dearest Marcus, the letter began. Today you turned 26, and I watched from the shadows as your father brought you another specialist. I saw your face when you refused to hope again, and my heart broke as it breaks every day. You don't remember me, I know. You were so young when I had to leave. But I never forgot you, my darling boy. I never stopped loving you. I never stopped watching over you, even from a distance. If you knew the truth about that night, about the accident, about why I had to disappear, would you understand? Would you forgive me? I pray that someday I'll have the courage to tell you, to reveal myself. Until then, I remain your ghost, your guardian angel, your mother in all but name. The woman who loves you more than her own life but lost the right to claim you. Forever yours, Celeste. Maya's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the letter. Celeste. The name stirred something in her memory. Fragments of staff gossip she'd half heard. Richard's first wife wasn't Marcus's mother. There had been someone before. Someone Richard never spoke about. Someone who'd vanished mysteriously. She dug through more letters, piecing together a story that seemed impossible. Celeste had been Richard's girlfriend before he married Marcus's mother, Jennifer. But according to the letters, Celeste had actually raised Marcus for his first 10 years of life while Jennifer was absent, struggling with addiction. Celeste wrote about bedtime stories and scraped knees and first days of school, all the small intimacies of motherhood. Then, 10 years ago, she'd disappeared. The letters didn't say why, only that she'd had no choice, that she'd made a terrible mistake, that leaving Marcus had destroyed her, but staying would have destroyed him worse. And the accident. Celeste mentioned it in several letters, her words anguished and cryptic. If you knew the truth about that night, she'd written, the truth about what happened, the truth about who was really responsible. Maya heard footsteps on the attic stairs and spun around, clutching the letter. Marcus appeared in the doorway to the secret room, moving with surprising confidence for someone who'd never been there. I heard you moving around up here, he said. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. I know every sound in this house. The attic access creaks in a specific way. Marcus, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have. Maya started, but he held up a hand. You found it. It wasn't a question. The room my father doesn't know I know about. You've been here before? I found it 6 months ago, right before you started working here. I was angry after another failed consultation, and I was slamming around up here, and I heard that same tapping sound you must have heard. Like someone knocking, trying to get my attention. He moved into the room with eerie precision, his fingers trailing along the bookshelf. I've memorized every inch of this space. All the letters. All the photos I can't see but know are there. All the evidence of the woman who loved me but left me. Maya's throat was tight. Celeste. Celeste. Marcus's voice broke on the name. The woman who was more of a mother to me than my actual mother ever was. The woman who disappeared without explanation when I was 10 years old and broke my heart in ways I didn't understand until I found this room. The letters, Maya said carefully. They talk about the accident. About the truth of what happened that night. Marcus's jaw clenched. I know. I've read them all. Had my phone read them to me in that emotionless computer voice that doesn't do justice to her words. She knows something about the accident that killed Isabel and took my sight. Something she thinks I need to know, but doesn't have the courage to tell me. Have you confronted your father? And admit I've been coming to the secret room he's kept hidden? The room where he's apparently been storing evidence of a woman he spent 15 years pretending never existed? Marcus laughed bitterly. My father has enough secrets to fill this mansion. I'm just one more thing he's trying to control. Maya looked around the room again, at the shrine to a vanished woman. She's still alive. The letters are recent. I know. Marcus moved to where the portrait hung, reaching up to touch the frame. She's somewhere nearby watching me, writing letters she never sends. She's been my ghost for 8 years of darkness, and I don't even know what she looks like anymore. I was 10 when she left. My memories are a child's memories. The anguish in his voice made Maya's decision for her. I'm going to find her. Marcus's head snapped toward her. What? Someone has to put these letters in this room. Someone who has access to the house. And if she's watching you, she has to be close. Maya's mind was already racing, thinking through the possibilities. I'm going to find Celeste and bring her to you. You deserve answers, Marcus. And maybe she deserves a chance to explain. Maya, you can't. I can. And I will. She moved to him, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his green eyes. Eyes that looked past her but somehow seemed to see straight through her. You said I treated you like a human being instead of a tragedy. Well, human beings deserve truth. Whatever happened, whatever secrets your father is keeping, you have a right to know. Marcus reached out, and his hand found her arm, his grip gentle but firm. "Why are you doing this? You barely know me. Because someone should fight for you the way I fight for Zoe." Maya's voice was fierce. "Because you're so busy giving up that you've forgotten how to hope. And because maybe, just maybe, the cure for your darkness isn't in Switzerland or some surgical miracle. Maybe it's in understanding what really happened that night and who you lost." His hand slid down to grip hers, and for a moment, they stood there in the secret room, surrounded by photographs of a ghost and letters from the past. Two broken people recognizing the cracks in each other. "If you do this," Marcus said quietly, "if you find her and bring back whatever truth my father's been hiding, you could lose your job. He'll see it as a betrayal. Then I guess we'd better make sure it's worth it." Maya squeezed his hand once, then let go. "I need to get home to Zoe. But tomorrow I start looking. And Marcus, whatever I find, whatever the truth is, I'll tell you. No more secrets, no more protecting you from reality." She left him standing in Celeste's shrine, and as she climbed down the attic stairs, Maya wondered what she'd just committed herself to. She was a maid, not a detective, but she'd seen the hunger for truth in Marcus's face, and she recognized it because she wore the same expression every time a doctor told her there was nothing more they could do for Zoe. Sometimes hope wasn't about miracles. Sometimes it was about having the courage to face the truth, no matter how painful. And sometimes Maya was learning. It was about finding the thing that was lost and bringing it home. Maya's apartment was a shoebox compared to the Ashford mansion, but it was hers, and tonight it felt too small to contain all the questions ricocheting through her mind. Zoe was already asleep, her breathing rough but steady through the nebulizer mask. Maya sat at their tiny kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee in front of her, and thought about secret rooms and vanished women and the weight of other people's mysteries. She'd promised Marcus answers, but where did you even start looking for a ghost? The next morning, Maya returned to the mansion with a plan that felt equal parts desperate and stupid. She started with Marie, catching the head housekeeper in the kitchen during the morning lull. "How long did you say you've worked here?" Maya asked, trying to sound casual as she helped chop vegetables. 20 years. Started when Marcus was just 6 years old." Marie's knife never paused. "Why?" "Just curious about the family history. Marcus mentioned someone named Celeste yesterday. I thought maybe she was a relative." Marie's knife stopped. The silence stretched out long enough that Maya knew she'd hit something. "Where did you hear that name?" Marie's voice was careful, controlled. "Marcus mentioned it in passing." "Who was she?" Marie set down her knife and looked at Maya with an expression that mixed warning and resignation. "Some doors are better left closed. Richard Ashford doesn't speak that name, and anyone who values their job shouldn't either. But you knew her. Everyone who worked here knew her." Marie's voice softened slightly. "Celeste Moreau. She was Richard's fiancée before Jennifer, and she practically raised Marcus those first 10 years. Beautiful woman. Kind. The boy adored her. What happened? She left." Marie picked up her knife again. "One day she was here, the next she was gone. Richard never explained, never mentioned her again. He married Jennifer 6 months later, and that was a disaster from the start. Jennifer was never cut out for motherhood, spent more time in rehab than with her son. The divorce 3 years ago was the best thing that could have happened." Maya processed this carefully. "Did Celeste have any family? Friends who might know where she went?" Marie gave her a sharp look. "Why are you asking these questions?" "Because Marcus is drowning in that house, and everyone's so busy trying to fix his eyes that no one's looking at what's really broken." Maya met Marie's gaze steadily. "He needs answers about his past, about the people who left him, and you think dragging up old ghosts will help?" But Marie's voice had lost its edge. She sighed. "Celeste had a sister, Elena Moreau. She runs a community center in Bridgeport about 30 minutes from here. I heard she still lives in the area, but I don't know more than that." It was more than Maya had hoped for. She thanked Marie and managed to slip away during her lunch break, driving her beat-up Honda to Bridgeport with fingers crossed that the engine wouldn't give out. The Moreau Community Center was in a neighborhood that reminded her of where she'd grown up. Working class, diverse, the kind of place where people looked out for each other because no one else would. Elena Moreau was behind the front desk, and the resemblance to the photos in the attic room was striking. Same warm brown skin, same elegant bone structure, though Elena's face carried lines of worry that her sister's hadn't in those frozen moments of joy. "Can I help you?" Elena asked, her voice professional but welcoming. Maya's carefully prepared speech evaporated. "I work for the Ashfords. I found your sister's room." Elena's face went completely still. "I think you should come to my office." They sat across from each other in a small room filled with community notices and children's artwork. Elena's hands were clasped tightly on her desk, knuckles pale. "How is he?" she asked quietly. "Marcus, how is he really?" "Alone. Angry. Giving up." Maya leaned forward. "He found the room 6 months ago. He's read all the letters. He knows Celeste is alive and nearby, and it's eating him alive not knowing why she left." Elena closed her eyes. She left to protect him. From what? From the truth about what she did. Elena's voice cracked. From the guilt that would have destroyed them both if she'd stayed. Maya's heart was pounding. The accident. She knows something about the accident. She knows everything about the accident. Elena opened her eyes, and they were wet with tears. Because she caused it. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Maya couldn't breathe. Elena continued, her voice breaking. Celeste was driving the night of Marcus's accident, not his girlfriend Isabel. Isabel was already dead when the car crashed. Maya's mind reeled. That's not possible. All the reports said Isabel was driving. She was the one who died. The report said what Richard Ashford paid them to say. Elena's bitterness was sharp as glass. He covered it up, changed everything, made Isabel the driver posthumously so that Marcus would never know the woman he loved like a mother was responsible for taking his sight. Why would Celeste be driving Isabel's car? Because Isabel called her that night, drunk and crying, saying she'd had a fight with Marcus and taken pills. Celeste went to get her, found her already unconscious in the car. She was trying to drive Isabel to the hospital when another car ran a red light and hit them. Elena's tears were falling freely now. Isabel died on impact. Marcus, who'd been sleeping in the back seat, hit his head so severely that it damaged his optic nerves. And Celeste? She walked away with barely a scratch, physically, but mentally, emotionally, she was destroyed. Richard covered it up, Maya repeated, trying to wrap her mind around it. He had the resources, the connections. He made it look like Isabel had been driving, that Celeste hadn't been there at all. He did it because he thought he was protecting Marcus from further trauma, from losing the woman who'd been his real mother. But he also did it as punishment. He told Celeste she could never see Marcus again, that if she tried to contact him, he'd make sure she went to prison for vehicular manslaughter, for contributing to the death of a minor, for a dozen other charges he could manufacture. And she agreed. She was drowning in guilt. Elena wiped her eyes. She loved that boy more than her own life, but she believed she'd destroyed him. Richard convinced her that the kindest thing she could do was disappear. Let Marcus believe Isabel had been driving. Let him grieve cleanly instead of being torn between love and blame. Maya thought about the letters, about Celeste's anguished words. But she couldn't stay away. She lasted 2 years. Then she started watching from a distance, writing letters she couldn't send, maintaining that secret room in the attic that Richard doesn't know about. She has a key to a back entrance, a password to disable that sector's security system. She goes there when the family's away, sits in that room surrounded by memories of the son she's not allowed to claim, and writes him letters about a truth she's terrified to reveal. Where is she now? Elena hesitated. She works at St. Michael's Hospital in the administrative wing. She took a job there 8 years ago because she wanted to be close to places that dealt with blindness, with trauma, as if studying suffering could absolve her of causing it. She's there right now, probably looking at the staff directory, seeing Richard's latest specialist, torturing herself with hope she's not allowed to feel. Maya stood up. I need to talk to her. She won't see Marcus. Elena's voice was firm. She's convinced herself that he's better off not knowing. that revealing the truth would only add to his pain. Then she's wrong. Maya's voice was fierce. Marcus is suffocating under secrets and lies. He's given up on living because he's lost in a past he doesn't fully understand. If there's any chance that the truth could set him free, don't we owe him that? Elena studied her for a long moment. You care about him. More than just as an employer. Maya hadn't let herself think about that too closely, about how her heart rate changed when Marcus said her name, about how she'd started looking forward to their verbal sparring, about how his rare smiles felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. I care about what's right. And what's right is giving him the truth and letting him decide what to do with it. Richard will destroy you for this. He can try. Maya pulled out her phone. Tell me how to find Celeste. St. Michael's Hospital was massive, and Maya had no idea how to navigate its warren of hallways. She ended up asking at 3 different information desks before someone directed her to the administrative offices on the 4th floor. She found Celeste at a desk in a shared office, head bent over paperwork, looking so much like her photographs but sadder, worn down by years of grief. Maya approached slowly. Celeste Moreau? The woman looked up, and her breath caught when she saw Maya. You work for Richard. I've seen you at the house, through the windows when I go to the room. Her voice was honey smooth with a trace of accent. How did you find me? Your sister. Maya pulled up a chair without asking. I'm Maya Thompson. I'm Marcus's maid, and I know everything. Celeste's face crumbled. Then you know I'm a monster who destroyed the child I loved. I know you were trying to save a girl who'd overdosed and got hit by a drunk driver. Maya's voice was firm. I know Richard Ashford manipulated you and blackmailed you and stole 8 years of your life because he couldn't handle the complexity of the truth. Marcus is better off without me. But Celeste's voice was weak, unconvincing even to herself. Is he? Because from where I'm standing, he's a 26-year-old man who's given up on life, who won't leave his father's house, who throws things and refuses treatment and spends his time reading about hell. Does that sound better off to you? Celeste's hands were shaking. If he knew what I'd done, he'd have information instead of questions. He'd understand why you left instead of wondering if he was unlovable. He'd know that the accident wasn't just random tragedy, but had context, reasons, human choices behind it. Maya leaned forward. You wrote in your letters that you watch over him. Well, watching isn't enough anymore. He's drowning, Celeste, and you're the only one who can throw him a rope. Richard will never allow it. Richard doesn't get to control everyone's life anymore. Maya's voice was hard. I'm going to tell Marcus the truth. And then I'm going to bring you to him. And what happens after that is up to you too. Not Richard, not me, not anyone else. But he deserves to decide for himself whether to forgive you, whether to let you back in, whether knowing the truth hurts more or less than living with lies. Celeste was crying openly now, tears streaming down her beautiful face. I've imagined seeing him again 1,000 times, telling him I'm sorry, that I never wanted to leave, that not a day has passed when I haven't thought of him, but I never had the courage. Then borrow mine. Maya stood. Tonight. Come to the mansion tonight at 8. Use your key, go to the music room on the 2nd floor. I'll make sure Marcus is there. And Celeste, bring your courage with you because he deserves better than a ghost who watches from the shadows. She left before Celeste could argue, her heart racing. She was burning every bridge, risking everything, but the rightness of it sang in her bones. Some secrets were poison. This one had been festering for 8 years, and it was time to lance the wound. Back at the mansion, Maya found Marcus in his room, pacing like a caged animal. Did you find anything? He demanded the moment he heard her footsteps. I found everything. Maya closed the door behind her. And tonight, you're going to get answers. But first, I need to tell you what I learned, because you need to be prepared. She told him all of it, about Celeste being in the car, about Isabel's overdose, about the drunk driver and Richard's cover-up, and the 8 years of imposed silence. Marcus stood frozen as she spoke, his face cycling through disbelief, shock, rage, grief, and finally something that looked like devastating relief. She didn't abandon me, he whispered when Maya finished. She was taken from me, and she's been watching over you ever since. Writing you letters she was too afraid to send, loving you from a distance because she thought it was what you needed. Maya moved to him. She's coming here tonight. To the music room at 8. She's terrified you'll hate her for what happened, for the accident, for staying away. Hate her? Marcus's voice broke. She tried to save Isabel. She was in the car because she was trying to help someone who was dying. And my father punished her for it, lied to me, kept her from me all these years. His hands clenched into fists. Where is Richard? At his office. He won't be back until late. Good. Marcus's face was hard. Because after tonight, after I see Celeste and hear everything from her own mouth, I'm going to have a conversation with my father that's 8 years overdue. Maya spent the next few hours in a state of nervous anticipation, watching the clock crawl toward 8. She settled Zoe with a video call, promising she'd be home as soon as she could, though she had no idea what the night would bring. She positioned herself near the music room, ready to guide Celeste when she arrived, ready to give Marcus whatever support he needed. At 7:55, she heard the soft click of the back entrance opening. Celeste moved through the mansion like a ghost who'd haunted it for years, which Maya supposed she had. She was dressed simply, her face bare of makeup, her eyes red from crying. She looked at Maya with naked terror. I can't do this. I can't face him. Yes, you can. Maya took her hand, feeling it tremble. He's in there waiting. He knows the truth. And Celeste? He doesn't hate you. If anything, I think he's been waiting for you all along. Maya opened the music room door and gently pushed Celeste inside, then closed it to give them privacy. But she stayed close, unable to walk away from the moment she'd orchestrated. Inside, she heard Marcus's voice, rough with emotion. Celeste. Marcus. The name came out as a sob. My darling boy. I'm so sorry. I'm so desperately sorry for everything. Come here. His voice was commanding, certain. I can't see you, but I need to remember you. I need to know you're real. Maya heard movement, and then silence. She imagined them standing together, this woman who'd lost everything and this man who'd lived in darkness, finally finding each other across years of imposed separation. Tell me everything, Marcus said. Every detail of that night, every moment of the last 8 years. Don't protect me anymore. I need the truth, all of it, no matter how painful. And Celeste did. Maya heard her voice, sometimes breaking, sometimes steady, recounting the phone call from Isabel, the desperate drive to save her, the moment of impact that changed everything. She talked about Richard's ultimatum, about choosing to disappear because she believed it was what Marcus needed, about the years of watching from shadows and writing letters and living half a life. I should have fought harder, Celeste said. I should have refused Richard's terms, should have been brave enough to face your judgment. But I was drowning in guilt, and I believed him when he said you were better off without me, that you'd be able to heal if you thought the accident was just Isabel's tragedy, not mine too. You were wrong. Marcus's voice was firm. Every day for 8 years, I felt like something was missing. I thought it was my sight, but it was you, the person who loved me unconditionally, who made me feel seen even when I could see. Losing you hurt more than losing my vision, and I didn't even understand why until I found your room. I never stopped loving you, not for a single moment. I know. His voice was softer now. I read your letters. All of them. I've been living with your ghost for 6 months, and it was better than living without you entirely. Maya heard crying, mutual and cathartic, years of grief finally released. She wiped her own eyes and was about to move away when she heard Richard's voice from the front entrance, earlier than expected. Maya! Where the hell is everyone? Her blood ran cold. She moved quickly to intercept him, but he was already striding toward the music room, his face thunderous. I got a call from hospital security saying Celeste Moreau swiped her access card at an unusual time. I had them check her location, and her car is parked 2 blocks from here. If she's in my house. He threw open the music room door. The tableau inside was devastating in its intimacy. Marcus and Celeste holding each other, her hands cupping his face, his expression more alive than Maya had ever seen it. They broke apart at Richard's entrance, but neither moved away from the other. "Get out of my house." Richard's voice was deadly quiet, directed at Celeste. "Now, or I'll have you arrested for trespassing." "No." Marcus's voice was equally quiet but harder, like steel. "She stays. And you need to hear some truths. Marcus, you don't understand. I understand that you've been lying to me for 8 years." Marcus moved to stand between Celeste and his father. "I understand that you covered up what really happened that night, that you manipulated everyone involved to protect me from a truth you decided I couldn't handle. I understand that you kept the woman who loved me like a mother away from me, made her believe she was a monster, and let me think I'd been abandoned." Richard's face was pale. "I did what I thought was best. You did what was easiest for you." Marcus's voice was shaking with rage. "You couldn't handle the complexity of the truth, so you simplified it. You made Celeste the villain and Isabel the victim, and you erased 8 years of my life with someone who actually loved me unconditionally, not as a project or a problem to fix." "I love you," Richard said, and for the first time, Maya heard genuine pain in his voice. "Everything I've done has been because I love you. Then love me enough to let me make my own choices." Marcus's voice was firm. "Celeste is in my life now. She's answering my questions, filling in the blanks you created. And if you can't accept that, then maybe it's time I moved out of your house and your shadow. You can't manage on your own. You're blind. I'm blind, not helpless. And maybe I've been helpless all these years because you've insisted on treating me like broken glass instead of a capable adult." Marcus found Celeste's hand and held it tight. "I'm 26 years old. I should have been living my own life years ago. Maybe Celeste's return is the push I needed to finally do it." Richard looked between his son and the woman he'd banished, and Maya saw the moment something broke in him. His shoulders sagged. His face, usually so controlled, showed raw grief. "I thought I was protecting you," he said quietly. "When you woke up in the hospital blind and traumatized, and you kept asking for Celeste, I made a decision. I thought if you knew she'd been driving, you'd blame her, hate her, and you'd already lost so much. I thought I was sparing you additional pain. You were sparing yourself the complexity of human emotion," Celeste said, her voice gentle but firm. "You were scared of what might happen if Marcus had to grapple with loving someone who'd been involved in his trauma. But you underestimated him. He's stronger than you gave him credit for." Richard's eyes were wet. "I've been trying to give you your sight back. Every specialist, every treatment, I thought if I could just fix that. My sight is gone, Dad." Marcus's voice was almost tender now. "Maybe forever, but I'm tired of waiting for a miracle that might never come. I'm ready to start living with what is instead of mourning what was." The room fell silent except for the ticking of an antique clock. Maya stood in the doorway, witnessing this family break apart and rebuild itself in real time, and she felt both privileged and intrusive. Richard finally looked at Celeste. "I'm sorry," he said, and it sounded like the words cost him everything. "I had no right to keep you away. I had no right to make that choice for Marcus. I thought I was being strong, decisive, protective, but I was just being controlling and afraid." Celeste nodded slowly. "I forgive you. Not because what you did was right, but because holding on to anger will only poison what time we have left." "What happens now?" Richard asked, looking at his son. Marcus was quiet for a moment, and Maya could see him working through years of dependence, fear, and habits of helplessness. "Now I start figuring out who I am outside of this house, with Celeste's help, if she's willing." "I'm willing." Celeste's voice was fierce. "I've lost 8 years. I'm not losing another day." "And the Swiss specialist?" Richard asked, something breaking in his voice. "Let him go home." Marcus smiled, and it transformed his face. "I'm done chasing sight. Maybe it's time I learned to see in the dark. Maya backed away slowly, leaving the three of them to navigate their complicated reconciliation. She was halfway to the kitchen when Marcus called out, "Maya!" "Don't go. You're part of this too." She turned back to find all three of them looking at her. "I'm just the maid. You're the person who had the courage to do what none of us could do," Celeste said. "You looked at a broken situation and decided to fix it, no matter the cost to yourself." "Speaking of which," Richard said, and Maya's stomach clenched, waiting for the termination. "I owe you a debt I can't repay. You risked your job, probably your safety, to give my son the truth I was too cowardly to provide. Name your price." Maya thought about Zoe, about the nebulizer treatments and the specialist appointments, and the constant fear that one of these asthma attacks would be the one they couldn't control. "My daughter needs better medical care than I can afford. If you're serious about being grateful, help me give her that." "Done." Richard said it without hesitation. "Full medical coverage, the best specialists in the country, whatever she needs." Maya's knees went weak. "Thank you." "No." Richard's voice was firm. "Thank you. For seeing what I couldn't. For having the courage I lacked. For giving me back my son." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. Marcus moved out of the mansion and into an apartment in the city, aided by Celeste and a team of specialists who helped him learn to navigate independently. He started working with vocational rehabilitation, exploring careers that didn't require sight, but utilized his intelligence and education. For the first time in 8 years, he was living instead of waiting. Maya continued working for Richard, but her role had shifted. He consulted her on matters related to Marcus, trusting her judgment in ways he'd never trusted anyone before. And true to his word, Zoe started seeing the top pediatric pulmonologist in the state, with treatments that were already making a dramatic difference. But the biggest change was in Maya's relationship with Marcus. What had started as employer and employee, then evolved into allies in truth-telling, was becoming something neither of them had planned for. She visited him in his new apartment one evening, ostensibly to drop off some items he'd forgotten at the mansion. She found him in his kitchen, attempting to cook dinner with the confidence of someone still learning their space. "That smells like you're burning something," she said from the doorway. He grinned. "Probably. Come save me before I burn the building down." She moved to the stove, turning down the heat on the pan. "You know, there are meal delivery services for people who shouldn't be trusted with fire. Where's the adventure in that?" He moved beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Maya." "Yeah? I never thanked you properly. For everything. For treating me like a person instead of a problem. For finding Celeste. For giving me my life back. You're doing that yourself." "I just opened a door." "You opened all the doors." His hand found hers on the counter. "I can't see your face, but I've memorized your voice, the way you move, the sound of your breathing. I know when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're trying not to laugh at me. And I've realized something." Maya's heart was hammering. "What?" "I'm falling for you. Maybe I have been since the day you brought me real coffee and told me I wasn't made of glass. You're brave and fierce, and you fight for what's right even when it costs you." His fingers interlaced with hers. "I know this is complicated. You're black, I'm white. There's the history of you working for my father. The fact that I'm still figuring out how to be independent. But if you're willing to navigate complicated..." She kissed him. It was impulsive and terrifying and felt like coming home. His free hand came up to cup her face, gentle and reverent, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathless. "Is that a yes?" he asked, smiling. "That's a we'll figure it out." She rested her forehead against his. "I have a daughter who needs stability, and you're still rebuilding your life. We should probably take this slow." "Slow?" He nodded. "I can do slow. I've waited 8 years to start living again. I can wait a little longer to do it right." They stood there in his kitchen, the dinner burning on the stove forgotten, and Maya thought about how life rarely unfolded the way you expected. She'd taken a job as a maid, desperate and broke. and somehow found herself at the center of a family's redemption. She'd set out to help a blind man see the truth, and ended up seeing her own life more clearly. 2 months later, Maya sat in the audience of a small community center where Marcus was giving his first public speech about living with blindness. Beside her sat Zoe, breathing easier than she had in years thanks to her new treatment plan. On Maya's other side was Celeste, who'd become not just Marcus's mother figure, but Maya's friend and confidant. "People ask me all the time if I wish I could see again," Marcus was saying to the crowd. "And the honest answer is yes. Of course I do. I miss colors and faces and the way sunlight looks on water. But being blind has taught me to see other things, to hear the truth in people's voices, to feel the authenticity of their presence, to value substance over surface." Maya watched him speak with confidence she'd never seen in the mansion, watched him connect with an audience who hung on his words, and felt pride swell in her chest. "I spent 8 years thinking my life was over," Marcus continued. "But it turns out I was just waiting for it to begin. And it took someone very special to show me that. Someone who refused to let me give up, who fought for my truth when I was too tired to fight for myself, who looked at a broken blind man and saw someone worth saving." He turned his face in the direction where Maya sat, as if he could sense her presence even without seeing her. "So, my advice to anyone struggling with disability, with loss, with feeling like your life is over: find your person, the one who won't let you quit, the one who fights for you even when you can't fight for yourself, the one who sees you, truly sees you, even in the darkest places, and then hold on to them with everything you have." The audience applauded, and Maya felt tears streaming down her face. Zoe squeezed her hand. "Is that man talking about you, Mama?" she whispered. "Yeah, baby. I think he is." That evening, back at Marcus's apartment with Zoe asleep in the guest room, Maya and Marcus sat on his balcony, listening to the city sounds below. He held her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Celeste wants to have dinner next week," he said. "All of us. She said she wants to meet Zoe properly, not just the quick hello we did before. Zoe adores her already. She told me yesterday that she wished she had a grandma like Celeste." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Would you ever want more kids?" The question hung in the air, loaded with possibility and promise. Maya thought about how far they'd come in such a short time, how her life had transformed from desperate survival to something that felt like hope. "Maybe," she said carefully. "Someday, when things are more settled, when we figured out what we're doing." "I know what I'm doing." His voice was sure. "I'm building a life with you. However long it takes, whatever it looks like. You showed me that being blind doesn't mean living in darkness, that I could have love and purpose and joy even without sight. You gave me everything, Maya. You gave me things too." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "A chance to be brave, financial security for Zoe, a future that isn't just about surviving, but about actually living." "So we're really doing this? Interracial couple, kid involved, navigating disability, dealing with my complicated family dynamics? We're really doing this." Maya smiled. "People will talk. Your father's society friends will probably have opinions about you dating your former maid. We'll face prejudice and judgment and people who think they know our story better than we do. Let them talk." Marcus pulled her closer. "I can't see their disapproving looks anyway. All I know is what I feel, and what I feel when I'm with you is the closest thing to sight I've experienced in 8 years. You illuminate everything." 6 months later, Maya stood in the backyard of the Ashford mansion, watching Zoe play with other children at an improbable gathering. Richard had insisted on hosting an engagement party, his way of publicly supporting Marcus's choice and making amends for years of control. The guest list was eclectic. Society figures mixed with community center kids. Marcus's former specialists chatting with Maya's relatives. Celeste holding court like the mother of the groom she essentially was. Elena approached Maya with a knowing smile. "Never thought when I told you where to find my sister that I'd end up at your engagement party." Life's funny that way. Maya watched Marcus navigate the crowd with growing confidence, people stopping him to congratulate him, to share their own stories of disability and resilience. He'd become something of an advocate, and his TED Talk about finding light in darkness had gone viral. "He's a different person than the broken man you told me about 6 months ago," Elena observed. "He was never broken, just lost." Maya's voice was soft. "We all were, really, lost in our own ways. Turns out sometimes it takes someone else's truth to find your own." Richard appeared at Maya's elbow, looking uncomfortable in a way that had become familiar. He was learning to be less controlling, less certain, more open to complexity. It wasn't easy for him, but he was trying. "I wanted to thank you again," he said awkwardly, "for saving my son." "I didn't save him. I just reminded him he was worth saving." Maya met his eyes steadily. "But you can keep thanking me by being the father he needs, not the one you think he should have. By accepting his choices, including me." "Including you," Richard agreed. "For what it's worth, I was wrong about a lot of things. But I was never wrong about you having integrity and courage. Marcus is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him." Maya watched as Marcus made his way toward her, guided by Celeste. "We're lucky to have each other." Marcus reached her and pulled her close, uncaring about the audience of high society watching a white billionaire's son embrace his black former maid. Celeste beamed at them both, and Maya thought about the secret room in the attic, the letters that had led to this moment, the courage it had taken to open doors that everyone else wanted to keep closed. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus murmured. "About how I almost didn't knock on that attic door. About how different our lives would be if I'd just ignored the tapping sound and gone home." "But you didn't." His arms tightened around her. "You never do. You don't walk away from hard things. It's what I love most about you." "One of the things." She smiled. "You have a whole list. A very long list." He kissed her forehead. "Want to know a secret?" "Always. Last week, I went back to see Dr. Volker, the Swiss specialist, just for a consultation out of curiosity." He paused. "He thinks he might be able to restore partial vision. Not full sight, but enough to see shapes, maybe colors, maybe faces if I'm close enough." Maya's breath caught. "Marcus, that's incredible. When would the surgery be?" I turned him down. "What?" "Why?" Marcus cupped her face in his hands, his green eyes that had been blind for 8 years looking past her but somehow seeing straight into her soul. "Because I realized something. I spent 8 years chasing sight, thinking it was what I needed to be whole. But I'm whole now. I have you. I have Celeste. I have work that matters and a life that has purpose. If sight comes back someday, wonderful. But I'm done putting my life on hold waiting for it." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He kissed her, slow and sweet. And around them the party continued. This strange, beautiful gathering of people who'd all been lost in their own ways and found each other in the darkness. Later that night, after the guests had left and Zoe was asleep in one of the mansion's many guest rooms, Maya found herself back in the attic, in the secret room that had started everything. Celeste joined her, and they stood together looking at the photographs and letters that had held so much pain. "What will you do with this room?" Maya asked. "Leave it, I think." Celeste touched one of the photos gently, not as a shrine to loss anymore, but as a reminder. "Of the years we missed, yes, but also of how we found our way back, of how sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set us free. I keep thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't found it. If Marcus had never known the truth about that night, you would have found another way." Celeste smiled at her. "Because that's who you are, Maya. You don't let sleeping secrets lie. You dig for truth, you fight for what's right, and you make everyone around you braver for knowing you." "I just did what anyone would do." "No." Celeste's voice was firm. "Most people would have walked away, would have decided it wasn't their place, wasn't their problem. But you saw my son suffering and you decided to act. You risked your job, your security, everything because you believed he deserved the truth." "That's extraordinary." They stood there in the attic room, surrounded by the evidence of complicated love and terrible choices and ultimate redemption. And Maya thought about how far they'd all come. Marcus wasn't blind anymore. Not really. Because he'd learned to see with more than eyes. Richard had stopped trying to control everything and started trusting his son to make his own choices. Celeste had come out of the shadows and reclaimed her place in Marcus's life. And Maya, she'd gone from desperate and broke to engaged to a man who saw her truly, loved her fiercely, and built a life with her that felt like coming home. The tapping sound came again, the same rhythmic knock that had drawn Maya to this room in the first place. They both froze, listening. "What is that?" Maya whispered. Celeste moved to the window, the one that overlooked the grounds. "It's a branch from the oak tree. When the wind hits it just right, it knocks against the frame. That's what led you here originally, isn't it?" Maya nodded slowly. "I thought someone was knocking, trying to get attention." "Maybe someone was." Celeste looked at her with warm eyes. "Maybe the universe was knocking, trying to tell us all that it was time. Time to stop hiding. Time to stop running. Time to face the truth and heal." "You believe in that? Fate? Signs? The universe intervening?" "I believe in second chances." Celeste took Maya's hand. "I believe in brave young women who refuse to accept injustice. I believe in love strong enough to survive 8 years of separation and see across the barriers of blindness. I believe in family, the kind you choose and build from brokenness. Don't you?" Maya thought about the tapping that had led her to this room, about the letters that had revealed the truth, about the moment she decided to find Celeste instead of walking away, about Marcus's hand finding hers in the darkness and holding on tight. "Yeah," she said softly. "I believe in all of that." They descended from the attic together, leaving the room with its photographs and memories behind. Below them, the mansion was quiet. Everyone sleeping except for Marcus, who sat in the music room playing piano, something he'd taken up in the months since gaining his independence. The melody was sweet and sad and hopeful all at once, like everything in their story. Maya stood in the doorway watching him, and when he finished the piece, he turned his face toward her as if he'd known all along she was there. "Come here," he said. And she went to him. Always. This man who couldn't see her but knew her better than anyone ever had. "I love you," she said, the words still new enough to feel like magic. "I love you too." He pulled her down beside him on the bench. "Tell me something. If I could see, if that surgery could work and I could actually look at you, see your face instead of just imagining it, would you want me to do it?" Maya thought carefully before answering. "I'd want whatever you wanted. If sight would make you happy, truly happy, and not just chase away a ghost of what was, then yes. But if you're whole as you are, if you've made peace with the darkness, then no. I fell in love with you blind. Your eyes not working doesn't change anything about who you are." Perfect answer. He kissed her temple. "Though I admit, I'm curious what you look like. I've built this image in my head from touching your face, from the descriptions people have given me, from the way your voice sounds. I wonder if reality matches imagination." "Probably not. I'm pretty ordinary looking." "Liar." His fingers traced her jawline. "There's nothing ordinary about you. You're the woman who saw a broken situation and fixed it, who fought for truth when everyone else was comfortable with lies, who loved me even when I was drowning in self-pity and throwing things. That's extraordinary." "We saved each other," Maya said softly. "You gave me and Zoe a future. I gave you back your past. Seems like a fair trade." They sat together in the music room as the night deepened around them. And outside, the oak branch tapped against the attic window, keeping time like a heartbeat, like a reminder, like the universe knocking to say that sometimes the doors we're afraid to open are exactly the ones we need to walk through. And sometimes the truth we're terrified to face is the truth that finally sets us free.